Jess, do you have the stream pulled up?
I do.
Okay. Welcome back to Cosplay Confidential. I'm your host, Kiki, and I'm here at the beautiful studios of Podcast Detroit in Royal Oak, Michigan. And I'm here with my lovely co-host, our guest host, Jess from Matchstick Cosplay.
Hello.
And our faithful producer since day one. And faithful producer turned co-host, really. Turned everything. Because without him, this cosplay would really not be able to function. Will.
Hey.
Yay.
How's it going?
It's going so well.
I think without you, this podcast would never happen.
I need you to stop right now. I need to
We
just...
appreciate you.
like.
Okay, let me just say what we're doing first. Okay, before we start doing this business. First of all, we are streaming on Facebook right now. So thank you for joining us, those of you who are watching on the Book of Face. And feel free to send in your comments, questions, and concerns, and Jess will spout them at me.
Or make more memes of her.
Or make more memes of me. Because that's what the world needs, is more memes of my face, apparently.
We do, yes.
So we're calling this our 1 year retrospective, our 1 year anniversary. We started recording Cosplay Confidential last year, the Monday after Motor City Comic Con. So I want to say it was like the 21st or 22nd or something of May. And Will's about to look it up right now.
Yeah.
But that was when we first started recording. And how that all started was it actually started a while ago. The seeds of it started a while ago. I've been a frequent guest on the Podcast Detroit network on a variety of shows, and including Shot of History. So shout out to Shot of History because I love them. And they were the first podcast that I ever was on in my life.
That's the first podcast we did together.
Oh, it is, because it was the history of pizza.
Yeah.
And, God, it was something else that I had talked about the rite of spring and sacrificing virgins. I remember that. Because I looked at you, and you're like, why'd you look at me? And I was like, oh, God, no, I'm sorry. That was my first interaction with Will.
Just because I'm obsessed with pizza doesn't mean I'm a virgin. It's a common misconception.
Oh, bless you. So, thank you for still talking to me after that. I was just looking at you to just look at people while I was talking. If I had looked at Steph, she probably would have said the same thing. Yeah. So, but Dave, who's one of the owners of Podcast Detroit, would always give me shit about, you're the new Casey, referencing Casey Pierce, who is fabulous, and I adore her. And she has her own podcast, The Watch List, which is about conspiracy theories. And he was like, yeah, she guested on everybody's shows, and then finally she got her own. And you're Casey 2.0, because I was on like 8 shows on the network, like at various points. I guested on like 8 different shows. And he was like, yeah, you're Casey 2.0. So I was like, toying around with, okay, well, if I do a podcast, what would it be about? I don't know. And I thought about all these like half-baked ideas, and they were not very good. And then last year, in the spring, I was watching, it was like in April or something, and I was watching a live video from, I want to say it was Court Carmody, aka Court with Confidence. And she was like, oh, just ask me anything. And there weren't really a ton of people asking questions. So I asked her some questions about, wig styling, because she was styling a wig for cosplay and brushing it out and everything. And so I asked her a few questions, and I was like, oh, these are questions that I would like to ask like a lot of people. And I would be interested to hear what anybody's response would be. And I like asking people questions. And Crazy Cocoa Butter Cosplay, excuse me, I had to burp.
I just think of
Umbridge, who
Dolores
I also
Umbridge,
need to
yeah.
cosplay.
Yeah. God, I hate that bitch.
Yeah,
I love you though.
she's awful. I love her.
Yeah.
So Crazy Cocoa Butter Cosplay, shout out to Andy, also had like something up on his Instagram page of like, hey, ask me anything about my cosplay. And so I asked him a whole bunch of questions, and I was like, you know what, I'd really like to do this. So I actually sent my idea to Casey first of, hey, what, because she's like my number one cosplay fan, to be honest. I've like given her like big old Prince of My Pam cosplay, and like she's always like been like encouraging me to do something with cosplay, and more than just, you know, having fun, and to make something more of it. And I said, what if I did a cosplay podcast where I like interviewed cosplayers from different walks of life and asked them about, you know, how they got into cosplay and stuff. And she was like, yes, you should absolutely do that. So I didn't want to do it by myself. I pitched it to Dave, and he liked the idea. And I didn't want to do it by myself, so I needed two things. I knew that I wanted to have a producer who was in-house, a sound engineer and producer who was in-house, who was part of the show, so it wasn't just like someone that was randomly assigned to us. And I knew that Will did a little bit of cosplay and loved cosplay and was like friends with cosplayers and stuff. And so I asked Will if he would be our producer, and he agreed, and he was totally down for it. And I'm eternally grateful for him, because he got us stickers, man. Where's the stickers?
Stickers are about hold on, I got some.
He made us stickers, and he hooked us up with a guy who could design our logo and everything. And he's been here since day one, just doing everything when I couldn't.
Well, I'm just happy too that you asked me, because at the time I had not podcasted for about 6 months. I had a slate like just going through some stuff, and the show I was doing, I just wasn't a fit for me anymore, and I had sort of walked away from podcasting, but was really starting to miss it. But I was like, I just don't know what to do, like. And then you kind of were like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this podcast. You want to be part of it? And at first I was like, yes. I don't know, but yes. So, and it's been everything I could want it to be. So I was extremely grateful you even thought of me and asked me to be a part of the show.
Of course. I'm so glad you're here. And I knew that I was too nervous. I mean, okay, people who have met me and who are friends with me may be surprised by this, but I was incredibly nervous to be just like interviewing people, and oh God, I can't do this by myself, and I need somebody. And I knew from guesting on different podcasts, I liked the idea of not just having one person, because at the time Will didn't really want to be like, he didn't really care about being like on the podcast, and he just wanted to sit and like listen and produce and be good with that. And I'm glad that we've expanded and that you've come into the fold.
Yay.
And you've gone and done solo assignments.
Well, when you first asked me, like I said, I sort of walked away from podcasting.
Yeah.
And I just kind of felt like, I kind of felt like people didn't care what I had to say. And I didn't know a whole lot about cosplaying other than I was being a massive fan. So I just didn't think, like, anyone cared. So I was just like, I'll just, do the producer end of it and just kind of help you guys get the show started. So, and then it just took over my life.
It has taken over your life. God.
As does anything cosplay related, honestly.
Yep. So I saw Tori was talking about something on Instagram, and I messaged her and was like, hey, I'm thinking of doing this project. Would you be interested in being my co-host? Because she and I always got along. We always had fun hanging out at conventions and talking cosplay. And Tori was such a she's such a bright, bubbly personality that I knew she would be a good foil to the everything about me.
You have, as the kids say, big dick energy.
Yo, shut up.
You're
Do not.
You're like really intimidating, honestly.
Shut up.
When I first met you, I'm like, oh my god, like she's just gonna think I'm a giant dork. Like,
No. Oh my god, no. I can feel myself like getting red.
you're
No.
beautiful.
No, so I wanted to have someone who could be sort of a foil to me come on and help sort of take the weight off of, interviewing everybody, and so it wasn't just a solo thing. And I really appreciate the time that Tori spent with our podcast. And I miss her so much. And she's down living her best life in Florida, working at what is it, Universal now?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, one of the theme parks down there.
But I mean, episode 30, the Tori episode,
Yeah.
probably the most emotional episode we've had.
Yeah.
Check it out. One of my favorites too. Like, it was just the three of us talking about how awesome Tori is.
Yeah. It was really sweet. It was a really nice
coming
one.
Back though.
She is coming back.
Yeah.
Guess where I'll be when she's in town?
No.
I will be in Virginia.
No.
Yeah.
Visiting my sister.
Oh, that's
So,
cruel. That's some
yeah,
cruel fate there.
I'm really upset.
I get to see Tori. I'll give her a hug for you.
Please do. Please, everyone, if you see Tori ever in
Just
your
always
life,
hug her.
give her a hug from me, please, because I miss her horribly.
Well, we need to go down to Florida because I need to go to the Star Wars land. So we need to go visit Tori, go see Star Wars.
Yeah.
It needs to happen next year. 2020. It's coming.
2020, Cosplay Confidential in Florida.
Oh, if you
Um,
live in Florida, recommend Cosplay Confidential as panels.
Please do.
Yes.
Mike Light Cosplay, we're looking at you and all of your friends.
Hold out.
He was like the first. I mean, I consider him a friend.
Yeah.
But he was like the first person that I've kind of like been on the show that I talked to quite a bit because of the show.
Yeah. Mike Light is probably one of our number, if not the number one fan, one of the number one fans. Which is weird to say.
He puts up with me asking him dumb wrestling and pizza questions all the time. I one day just screenshotted the Google map of all the Domino's pizza in the area. And it was just because Ann Arbor is Domino's pizza from Ann Arbor.
Yeah,
and I have a weird I don't like Domino's pizza that much. I'm just they're everywhere. And he puts up with me ranting about Domino's pizza for 20 minutes on Instagram. So
You
bless
gotta
him.
have friends like that, you know? And some of them don't get tired of your shit, and some of us do. Looking at you, Sean. Your constant Doom soundtrack.
That was the best part of that party. Was we're all just sitting downstairs, and then Sean's like, "Watch what happens." He plays the Doom soundtrack, and we just waited. And all of a sudden, God damn it, Sean!
See,
Turn off the Doom soundtrack. Oh, so funny. So funny. But no, there's a handful of people that I can think of off the top of my head, and oh God, I'm going to forget people. But there's quite a few people who've been listening to every episode since day one and have been really supportive, like Mike Light Cosplay, Pearl Essence Cosplay, God, who else? Crazy Cocoa Butter, Single Dad Cosplay.
It's Single Dad Adventures now.
Single Dad Adventures, thank you. Single Dad Adventures. Single Dad Life Adventures, I think.
Yeah, something like
Yeah.
that.
And Not a Hepburn, Chefosaurus Rex, Archer Bay.
I love Chef's Rex. He's great.
So much.
His episode was so fun doing, too.
Oh, God bless him. Oh, I adore him. But there's, I mean, and Isa was bugging me 2 weeks ago. He's like, I need my podcast fix. Where's the next episode? When is it coming? And I was like, we've got 50 episodes in the can. Can you not go listen to one of those? He's like, I've listened to all of them. Where's the next episode? was like, okay.
So sweet and supportive.
So, and I know I'm missing people, and I'm so sorry. TMM Cosplay. And there's so many more, and I'm so appreciative that we can say there's so many more. I really just, what I wanted to do was just talk to cosplayers about their experiences and what their backstory was like. There's a handful of cosplay podcasts out there in the world, in the ether, that exist. A lot of them, I've listened to a few of them. They're very good. Like the Sheeproppers, the Sheeprop podcast.
Thank you for introducing me to Sheeprop.
Oh God, Sheeprop is amazing. Beverly Downen is a goddess.
Everybody in there, they're wonderful. I was so bummed that I didn't get to go to the Sheeprop panel at C2.
Oh my God, same.
But, they're wonderful. And I'm so excited because a bunch of them are going to be at Colossal.
Oh
so.
God, and they're it's such a great community for female and non-binary cosplayers, specifically.
It's badass.
Dudes are not allowed. For good reason, because of,
the dudes.
toxic things that happen.
Yeah.
But it's been really great and supportive, and their podcast is amazing. But like, it fills a specific niche, and it was a niche that podcast actually was after ours started, but it's like it fills a different niche than ours does, which I really wanted to focus on where people are coming from. Not necessarily like how to do XYZ, but what's your experience been like? Because there's a handful, there's quite a few people who listen who are not cosplayers. There's people who listen who don't know anything about cosplay. They're not cosplayers, but they enjoy listening because they like hearing people's stories and how they got into it. And that I wanted to do something like that because I feel like that's relatable. And it can answer a lot of questions for people.
Which is cool, because, I feel like when you kind of create those channels to have for people to identify with personal stories, with something that they're interested in especially, it kind of like makes them, I shut you off, it makes them feel like it's something that they can do as well, which I think is just super cool. Like I've had a lot of people tell me that, like, I seem approachable, not to like humble brag or anything, but like I seem approachable, and that, it's inspired them to get into cosplay because, it seems like I'm just an ordinary person that's doing it. And I feel like when you're creating something like this, you get that outlet for people to be friendly and approachable and seem like, you're in the room having a conversation with them, and it can be something that people say, oh, well, all these people do cosplay and they seem awesome. Maybe I should do that. And I think that's really valuable.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that it inspires more people to go up and talk to other cosplayers, because we've been fortunate enough to interview some pretty big names like Kelly Kierstein, Surprise to Cosplay, B-Bench, and some others.
B-Bench is great.
And I just, it brings some humanity to a really like... it brings some humanity to something that can be really oh God, I forgot what I was gonna say. Inaccessible. Yeah. But I wanted to share a couple of things that people have said. Like, for example, there was someone who messaged me, and I'm not going to share unless she says, feel free. Great, I'm gonna do it. She says, she sent me this back in February, Catherine Hildebrandt. And hang on just 1 second.
Oh, that was something else.
Okay. So Catherine Hildebrandt, who's really big in like the Star Wars cosplay community, she sent me a message back in February, and she said, I just wanted to thank you for creating the Cosplay Confidential podcast and sharing such positive energy in the community. I've been binging episodes at work over the last several days. I'm still not totally caught up yet. And listening to the interviews and panel discussions has helped me so much. I'm still clawing my way out of post-accident depression. And I hadn't originally planned to start my first new build of 2019 until next month, but I started actual construction on it yesterday. This podcast is bringing me back to life, reminding me how much I love cosplay and our community. I can't thank you enough for being such an awesome badass and inspiration. Keep up the great work.
That's wonderful and inspiring.
And I'm just glad that like I had it had this podcast and this venture had some kind of effect like that for somebody.
Yeah.
And that's really all I wanted.
Yeah.
Was just to do something for the community. So instead of me continuing to be sappy, I want to share some fun memories that people have had.
Yay, memory time.
Like Mike Light Cosplay when he was on and he said, oh God, let me find it. And he said, let's see, a lot of people said happy birthday in response to our post about the anniversary episode. Mike Light said, happy birthday. I'd have to say my smoke detector going off near the end of my appearance has to qualify as a memorable moment.
Oh my.
Here's the thing. It wasn't super loud, but you could hear it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't super loud and it wasn't a huge disruption, but it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Also, Crazy Cocoa Butter Cosplay's long-term revenge plan to blast me on the show. Beautiful. And Kaya Leanne, who was in episode...
Kaya.
I
think I was 8.
Yeah,
so she was in
probably
that 7.
She was in that block, yeah.
Yeah.
She said... let me see. Let me pop it open again. She said Bigfoot donut and Bigfoot shenanigans because she had the big donut.
I loved the big donut. I brought a prop today. I have a towel because it's Douglas Adams Day.
Perfect.
But her donut was something absolutely magnificent, and I loved it. And I was so excited when I got to pose for pictures later with the donut.
Yes.
And I really enjoyed the very heated Bigfoot versus Loch Ness monster.
Oh my God. Every episode with Tori asking the Bigfoot Nessie question.
That should be our new final question.
Yeah.
On the spirit of Tori.
That'd be a good idea.
So one thing that we're going to mention is that after this block of episodes comes out, because the episodes that are coming out after this will probably still have this question in them. After this block of episodes comes out, we are going to retire the how do you pee question, and we are going to have a different ultimate question of the episode. So I'm down for Nessie versus Bigfoot, but if anybody else has any suggestions, please send them our way for what you would like to hear be the final question of each episode.
And we're looking for something fun and creative. Like,
yeah.
One of the things about the how do you pee is we've asked it now roughly 54 times. And
yes.
We've gotten roughly the same 5 answers.
Yeah.
So it's just like we're looking for something a little bit more fun and creative and something that people can have more unique responses for. Right.
Mm-hmm. So that was the beauty of the Nessie Bigfoot was people had various reasons for why so-and-so would win.
Some people have like super creative responses.
Yeah.
Some people wanted like multiple more scenarios. Like it was great.
Yeah. It's fabulous. So definitely share any suggestions you have for that.
Yeah. My friend Sharon is saying that she the description that we were talking about with the accessibility is apparently how I convinced her to start going to cons with her. So apparently it works. Thank you, Sharon.
Good.
I'm so glad that you're my con buddy.
Oh, good. I'm so glad.
Stuff like this really does touch people, I think, and it's awesome.
Good. I'm so glad. The one of my favorite moments was not something that you could hear in an episode. It was when we were recording the Queen Alethea episode, over at the Detroit studio, and Tori was there, and I had gotten the chicken pad thai roll from Bangkok 96. And we were sitting there and we're listening to Queen Alethea cosplay talking, and we're listening, and I'm being an attentive host. I'm listening, but Tori asked if she could try the sprig of cilantro that was on my plate. This was where we learned that Tori had never eaten cilantro before. And we also learned that Tori has, that one gene that you either do or don't have that makes you either, whatever your gene status is, you either think that cilantro has a nice taste or doesn't have a taste, or you think it tastes like soap.
Yeah.
Well, guess which one Tori had? And I don't know if Will remembers this. Do you remember this?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, we're sitting there, and she puts it in her mouth. And for you on Facebook, this will be a special treat for you. She puts the whole sprig of cilantro in her mouth and just like chomps on it, and then just go, and it's like sticking her tongue out and like freaking out silently because we're in the middle of an interview. Listening to the very valuable information that's being given to us by Queen Alethea Cosplay. And like all of a sudden, and there's nothing to drink in the room. The water bottles are all gone. My drink is gone. Hers is gone. The only drink was like Will's Guinness that he had. which Tori hates. So she was just freaking out, and she had to take she took like a baby swig of Guinness to just try and wash it out of her mouth. She's like trying to scrape cilantro off of her tongue. It's one of my favorite moments.
But I'm not a big Guinness fan. It was just the beer.
It was just there.
Week. It was a $5 beer at the thing. So it was
oh god, it was so funny.
Yeah, it was just like she made the beer I had, and she was just like, what?
Meanwhile, I'm like about to cry laughing, and I have to continue this interview, and it just I don't know that anyone knows about that, but now you all do, and I'm so glad that you know.
I can't remember if we talked about it on the episode after it happened.
I don't know, but it was so funny. And I thought about that yesterday when I was having Mexican food with my mother. I was like, I should talk about this in the episode.
There's so much like just random things that happen, especially like when we're interviewing a guest on the phone.
Yeah,
like it can at times seem a little disconnected from them.
Yeah.
So we kind of give each other these looks. There's something happens only we know about.
Yeah, like me drinking my Mountain Dew for the entire day.
But it was like one of the last episodes, the guest said something, and all three of us kind of smiled and looked at each other because like, it was just the phrasing that they used,
Phrasing, boom. So I don't know. It's this podcast has given a lot of opportunities for people to either share their stories or for me to just meet a lot of people and to have the confidence. It's given me a lot of confidence to go up to people and say, hey, I have this podcast. We interview cosplayers. Could I talk to you? And I don't know. I feel like it gives me an excuse to talk to cool people. So that's pretty exciting.
It is really cool. Is this where I can start like asking you guys questions now?
Yeah.
Can I feel like I don't know.
Ask
like,
away.
We've only got a few minutes before I have to go.
Well, let's say what's like in honor of Tori. What's your favorite Tori memory specifically besides the cilantro one?
God, besides the cilantro moment,
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah. Will, do you have a favorite Tori memory?
She was always just so ridiculous for no reason at times.
Yeah.
Mine would be the first time that I brought in this little journal that I used to write all of the questions in and everything, and I would write a little page for each person, and it was like covered in sequins, and she would always like be playing with the sequins like the entire episode, just doing that.
Yeah.
And I would just be like giving her a withering look.
There was several times I was trying to get her to cry on the episode.
Oh well.
So in a good way,
Still.
I think we were talking to like whenever someone was talking about how they met their partner, like she would always so I would always try to find like cute stories for like them to see her cry because she gets so emotional. It's great.
Yeah.
That's nice. Has anybody ever said something like particularly impactful that you want to kind of like, maybe touch on again, or like, anything that you really just enjoyed about the previous episodes that you felt like added a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, I don't know, meaning. I guess.
Okay. I think that I don't know, every time that a guest talks about like advice that they would give cosplayers, it strikes me how different they all are. And I always feel like at some point we're going to get the same advice, but even if it is ever the same advice from one person to another, it's always phrased in a different way so that it might mean something different to somebody else, you know? And when we started asking that, what advice would you give? Trying to consistently ask that in every episode kind of made me, I don't know, it always gives me some inspiration too, because we're all just babies at heart. And we all need some encouragement from time to time. Having hearing stories from people and where they started and how it's really hard to sort them all out in my head right now. But everyone's different stories, and why they got into this, and hearing the passion with which they do this hobby. Because that's what it is. It's a hobby. And yeah, you can make it a job if you want to, but it starts as a hobby. Hearing the passion that they have for this hobby, it's really inspiring to me. And I very selfishly enjoy the sort of build up that I get from talking to these people and hearing their stories and hearing what they have to say about like what advice they would give.
Well, in the common thread that I think that pretty much everyone we've talked to, it's been friendship.
Yeah.
Everyone comes on here and they talk about all the great friends they've made because of cosplaying.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people like, you know, talk about how they got pulled into cosplaying because maybe one friend, but now they have so many more friends. And I know at this point, like, most of the people I talk to on a daily basis are all cosplayers now. You know, I mean, it's a great welcoming community.
It is. You know, I think sometimes, you know, my non-cosplayer friends, you know, for the most part, they're very, very supportive of me. But I know that sometimes people will say that sometimes I, you know, talk about cosplay too much, and it gets obnoxious. Those people aren't my friends anymore, but but you know, but the thing is that, you know, it's really not about cosplay. It's about, I have a lot of fun with my friends, and I think you're right. It really is just about building those friendships with people. And I appreciate you guys. You know, I met you because of cosplaying. You guys are awesome.
Well, I mean, we kind of inadvertently, I think, met too because of cosplaying. Because I was hanging out. Because I think it was the one day I was wearing the first time I was wearing my Stay Puft costume at Motor City.
I love this.
It might have been that weekend. And then you were Pam, and I was like, "This is person's an awesome Pam." And then we connected on social media. And
I
then
think
sort
that's how
of
most
like
people meet Kiki.
Yeah.
Pam or Ursula.
Pick
one.
An awesome Pam.
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know. Kiki, what's your favorite Will memory? He has a lot.
I think my favorite Will memory was him as Free Pizza Guy from Michigan Comic-Con. I loved that. You and going around with you at WashiCon as Redusa and Free Pizza Guy for a little bit. Yeah. That was a good time.
I know that's one thing I realized. So when I was trying to put together, like, I did a little collage on Instagram, so trying to put together some memories, and I realized there's not a whole lot of pictures of the two of us both in cosplay together. And then I couldn't find the inflatable donuts one, so we're going to have to do another one with those in it.
Yeah.
But it's just so funny, like, as much as that we talk about cosplay and stuff together, we've done very little, two of us together.
Right.
So we need to figure out some, like, fun group cosplay to do.
For sure. That would be cool. I have to get wrapped up because I am so sorry. I have to go.
Good.
I'm going to be full half an hour late to where I have to go because we've run piteously over time today. But I would love to maybe continue this in another episode.
52 episodes.
Yeah. Was there one more question you wanted to ask?
I was just going to ask Will what his favorite Kiki memory was.
all of them. I just
Cop out, but okay.
Kiki's like, thanks.
I think my favorite memory happened before the podcast is that we were hanging out at the wrestling show. And then you were dressed as Pam.
Yep.
We got photos of you in the iron chair and stuff. Like whenever you're in Pam, you're always having so much fun. I love it. Or like when we were walking around Michigan Comic-Con and you like yelled some Pam quote at some guy and he just gave you this weird look and you're like, yeah, whatever. That's awesome.
Those are for you.
Stickers.
Stickers.
I get more stickers. Sean.
Yeah. Just go and throw them on his car or something.
Well, he stole mine. So from
what?
Yeah, he accidentally, but he
Sean.
still stole mine from Motor City. So
Rude.
it was very rude.
Well, now you get more stickers.
Yeah, I got more stickers than you, Sean.
Well, have to wrap this up, and then I have to go profusely apologize about how long we ran today. But yeah, I'm just thank you guys for sticking around for so long, and here's to another year of meeting new cosplayers. I will be going to Virginia for a convention with my sister in 2 weeks.
That's exciting.
So that's exciting.
That's very cool.
So the podcast will be traveling to Virginia.
Yay, Virginia!
To All-Star Comic-Con in Tyson's Corners. So yeah, hoping to get some interviews with some cool people out there and make some bigger connections. So
Yay.
yeah. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for continually having me on. It's been really fun. It's such a pleasure every time that I get to hang out with you guys. So,
Of course.
I love it.
Well, once again, I don't know. You can find us. If you want us, you can find us.
You gotta look for 'em,
From Cosplay Confidential, I'm Kiki.
though. I'm Matchstick.
Well.
Keep creating, inspiring, and sharing the love.